This is the last day of the February 93 7-day retreat in Springwater. On this beautiful golden morning, we will put the questions and inquiry aside and read from different authors, from Krishnamurti, Vimalataka, and the poets Rainer Maria Rilke, Ryokan, and Mary Oliver. Since these are all copyrighted materials, this tape will only be available to our archives or library, but not for sale. This is a selection from a booklet compiled for distribution at the annual gathering of 1990 of the Krishnamurti Foundation in India. Someone let me have a copy of this. Question. What is this self-knowledge of which you speak? And how can I acquire it? Krishnamurti. You have extraordinary ideas about self-knowledge. That to have self-knowledge you must practice, you must meditate, you must do all kinds of things. It is very simple, sir. The first step is the last step in self-knowledge. The beginning is the end. The first step is what matters, because self-knowledge is not something you can learn from another. No one can teach you self-knowledge. You have to find out for yourself. It must be your own discovery. And that discovery is not something tremendous, fantastic. It is very simple. After all, to know yourself is to watch your behavior, your words, what you do in your everyday relationships. That is all. Begin with that, and you will see how extraordinarily difficult it is to be aware. Just to watch the manner of your behavior, the words you use to your servant, to your boss, the attitude you have with regard to people, to ideas, to things. Just watch your thoughts, your motives in the mirror of relationship, and you will see that the moment you watch, you want to correct. You say, this is good, that is bad, I must do this and not that. When you see yourself in the mirror of relationship, your approach is one of condemnation or justification. Therefore, you distort what you see. Whereas, if you simply observe in that mirror your attitude with regard to people, to ideas, and to things, if you just see the fact without judgment, without condemnation or acceptance, then you will find that that very perception has its own action. That is the beginning of self-knowledge. To watch yourself, to observe what you do, what you think, what your motives and incentives are, and yet not condemn or justify, is an extraordinarily difficult thing to do. Because your whole culture is based on condemnation, judgment, and evaluation. You have been brought up on do this and not that. But if you can look in the mirror of relationship without creating the opposite, then you will find that there is no end to self-knowledge. Creating the opposite meaning, if I see anger in myself, I think I should be not angry, calm, gentle, always the opposite. You see, the inquiry into self-knowledge is an outward movement which later turns inward. First we look at the stars, and then we look within ourselves. In the same way, we look for reality, for God, for security, happiness in the objective world, and when it is not found there, we turn inward. This search for the inner God, the higher self, or what you will, completely ceases through self-knowledge, and then the mind becomes very quiet, not through discipline, but just through understanding, through watching, through being aware of itself every minute without choice. Don't say, I must be aware every minute, because that is just another manifestation of our foolishness. When we want to get somewhere, when we want to arrive at a particular state. What matters is to be aware of yourself and to keep on being aware without accumulating. Because the moment you accumulate, from that center you judge. Self-knowledge is not a process of accumulation. It is a process of discovery from moment to moment in relationship. Bombay, 1955. Here's a brief excerpt from Being and Becoming, Vimala Thakur. It says in the editor's note, the book gives some of the dialogues which took place at Dalhousie in India during the summer of 1989. We are talking about an alternative way of living, which is a meditative way of living. Acquire knowledge, let it flow through you, let it be utilized in its relevant field without creating a knower. If we look at the roots of all human misery, we will find that misery is built upon our stupidity. We do not know how to relate to the structures and use them without identification, without creating a sense of authority out of them. Structures are not sacred. It is only life that is sacred. Patterns have no sacredness, whether you create them in the name of religion, spirituality, or politics. It is the pattern-free, structure-free, virgin dynamism of life that is sacred, that is divine. Wherever you have touched it with thought, you have manipulated it, you have structured it. It has a utility, but not sanctity. It has a utility, but no authority. An alternative way of living is feeding the brain and the system with all the knowledge, the techniques, acquiring all that, using it, without getting identified with it. It is only identification with the knowledge that creates an illusion of the knower. It is the creation of a knower that builds up your bondage. Knowledge itself has no power to bind you. It is the creation of the knower that is the obstacle. You have a beautiful, sensitive body, and the sensitivity gets in touch with its respective objects outside, and they bring sensations. Sensations are converted back to electric impulses, and the brain interprets them. It is a marvelous process, what we call experiencing. Contact with the outside world through the senses, which are very delicate, very tender. It is quite hard and arduous work to keep your sensual system pure, healthy, supple, and elastic. Let the experiences flow through the sensual system. There's nothing wrong in a sensual sexual experience, but you create an experiencer and you get stuck in the experience and its likes and dislikes, its value structures, its preferences, its prejudices, its theories. If the sensual contact with objects is allowed to flow through you without creating an experiencer, then the limited human-made world cannot corrupt you. As the oneness of life manifesting itself into manyness does not get corrupted, does not lose its vitality, does not get mutilated. In the same way, you acquire knowledge and you appear as an individual playing the role of a father, a mother, a brother, a sister, a son, a child. You are one appearing as many. There are no identification with the fatherness, the sonness, the daughterness, the motherness, the sisterness. You don't tie so many knots inside, but play the roles sanely, completely, with the magnificence of an inner equipoise. Then you're appearing as many, functioning as many, acquiring the knowledge of structures, and the handling of structures shall not corrupt you. In the human-made world, one has to learn to let the knowledge flow without creating a knower, and let the experience take place without creating an experiencer. That is the way of meditative living. The word meditation has been identified with psychophysical exercises, concentrations, methods, techniques, kundalini, shakti paths. The word has been abused and misused in callous ways. No authority and no effort. Freedom from authority and freedom from the struggle of efforts. Once you know that these human-made enclosures are only to be lived in, then the sense of comparing yourself with others. He has a palace and I have a hut. He has millions and I only have thousands. The sense of comparison and the ambition for competition disappears. Your economic life becomes simple. No vanity, no pride about your scholarship, erudition, and so forth. And your social life becomes simple. You do not move around with a begging bowl for sympathy, acceptance, prestige, acknowledgement, and so forth. Reconciled to the limitations, you live and move in them. Can you see with me that effortlessness is the content of silence? The content of silence is effortlessness. Silence is inner, unconditional freedom from the authority of the past. Silence is unconditional freedom from effort, and therefore the alternative way of living. Meditation has no repetition at all. It is moment to moment. In the moment of relating, you are living. In the moment of aloneness, you are dying. It is living and dying, like inhaling and exhaling. To be alone is to die to the sense of being somebody or being something. Is not that the content of death and dying? to die to the sense of being somebody or being something. Is not that the content of death and dying? To be alone is to die to the sense of being somebody, sinner, saint, holy, knowledgeable, respected, rich, and so forth, or poor. To be alone is to die to being something according to the definition of society, according to the value structure of religions. Physically isolating yourself may not lead you to the aloneness. It may not. That is what we are afraid of, dying to the sense of being somebody, dying to all the images that you have built up about yourself is being alone. The way we are tackling the theme may be unusual, unheard of to many. It is a non-conventional way, a non-traditional approach. But I am grateful that life brings you and me together. Here are a few excerpts from Rainer Maria Rilke's Letters to a Young Poet. This was written in Sweden in 1904. I want to talk to you again a while, dear Mr. Kappus, although I can say almost nothing that is helpful, hardly anything useful. You have had many and great sadnesses, which passed. And you say that even this passing was hard for you and put you out of sorts. But please consider whether these great sadnesses have not rather gone right through the center of yourself, whether much in you has not altered, whether you have not somewhere at some point of your being undergone a change while you were sad. Only those sadnesses are dangerous and bad which one carries about among people in order to drown them out. Like sicknesses that are superficially and foolishly treated, they simply withdraw and after a little pause break out again the more dreadfully and accumulate within one, and our life, our unlived, spurned, lost life, of which one may die. Were it possible for us to see further than our knowledge reaches, and yet a little way beyond the outworks of our divining, perhaps we would endure our sadnesses with greater confidence than our joys. For they are the moments when something new enters into us, something unknown. Our feelings grow mute and shy perplexity. Everything in us withdraws. A stillness comes, and the new which no one knows stands in the midst of it and is silent. I'm skipping paragraphs here. It is necessary, and towards this our development will move gradually, that nothing strange should befall us, but only that which has long belonged to us. And to speak of solitude again, it becomes always clearer that this is at bottom not something that one can take or leave. We are solitary. We may delude ourselves and act as though this were not so. That is all. But how much better it is to realize that we are so, yes, even to begin by assuming it. Fear of the inexplicable has not alone impoverished the existence of individuals. The relationship between one human being and another has also been cramped by it, as though it had been lifted out of the riverbed, of endless possibilities and set down in a fallow spot on the bank to which nothing happens. For it is not inertia alone that is responsible for human relationships repeating themselves from case to case, indescribably monotonous and unrenewed. It is shyness before any sort of new, unforeseeable experience with which one does not think oneself able to cope. But only someone who is ready for everything, who excludes nothing, not even the most enigmatical, will live the relation to another as something alive, and will himself draw exhaustively from his own existence. For if we think of this existence of the individual as a larger or smaller room, it appears evident that most people learn to know only a corner of their room, a place by the window, a strip of floor on which they walk up and down. Thus, they have a certain security. And yet, that dangerous insecurity is so much more human, which drives the prisoners in Poe's stories to feel out the shapes of their dungeons and not be strangers to the unspeakable terror of their abode. We have no reason to mistrust our world, for it is not against us. Has it terrors? They are our terrors. Has it abysses? Those abysses belong to us. Are dangers at hand? We must try to love them. And if only we arrange our life according to that principle which counsels us that we must always hold to the difficult, then that which now still seems to us most alien will become what we most trust and find most faithful. The Zen poetry of Ryokan, One Robe, One Bowl, translated by John Stevens. Winter night. Concealed in a dense forest, my hermitage lies far beyond the village river. 1,000 peaks, 10,000 mountain streams, yet no sign of anyone. A long, cold winter's night. Slowly a piece of wood burns in the fireplace. Nothing can be heard except the sound of snow striking the window. Late at night, listening to the winter rain, recalling my youth. Was it only a dream? Was I really young once? The hour grows late, but the sound of hail striking the bamboo keeps me from sleep. Another blizzard. The mountains are covered with deep snow. From now on, news from town must wait till spring. Wind and snow, then snow and rain. Tonight awakened by the cry of a wild goose in the dark, endless winter sky. Lying in my freezing hut, unable to sleep. Only the quiet roar of water pouring over a cliff. I lie down near the hearth and stretch out my feet to the fire. But still the cold pierces my belly. No begging in the town again today. The snow falls and falls. Late at night the snow is piling higher and higher, muffling the sound of the waterfall. The freezing morning rain has let up. What should I do? Fetch water? Chop firewood? Gather wintergreens? In the shadow of the mountains, in the firewood burns. In the shadow of the mountains, the firewood burns, brightening my cold little grass hut. Winter will soon be over. Please, please come visit my grass hut. My heart beats faster and faster and I cannot sleep. Tomorrow will be the first day of spring. As I watch the children happily playing, without realizing it, my eyes fill with tears. Thinking about the people in this floating world far into the night, my sleeve is wet with tears. A thief has stolen my zafu and futon, my cushions. Why did he break into my hermitage? The door is never locked. The night is ending, and I sit alone by the window. A sparse rain falls gently against the bamboo grove. The thief left it behind, the moon at the window. This is from American Primitive Poems by Mary Oliver. Moles, this is called. Under the leaves, under the first loose levels of earth, they're there. Quick as beetles, blind as bats, shy as hares, but seen less than these. Traveling among the pale girders of appleroot, rock shelf, nests of insects, and black pastures of bulbs, peppery and packed full of the sweetest food, spring flowers. Field after field you can see the traceries of their long, lonely walks, then the rains blur even this frail hint of them. So excitable, so plush, so willing to continue generation after generation, accomplishing nothing but their brief physical lives as they live and die, pushing and shoving with their stubborn muzzles against the whole earth, finding it delicious. First, snow. The snow began here this morning and all day continued, its white rhetoric everywhere calling us back to why, how, whence such beauty, and what the meaning. Such an oracular fever, flowing past windows, an energy it seemed would never ebb, never settle, less than lovely. And only now, deep into night, it has finally ended. The silence is immense, and the heavens still hold a million candles. Nowhere the familiar things. Stars, the moon, the darkness we expect and nightly turn from. Trees glitter like castles of ribbons. The broad fields smolder with light. A passing creek bed lies heaped with shining hills. And though the questions that have assailed us all day remain, not a single answer has been found. Walking out now into the silence and the light under the trees and through the fields feels like one. University Hospital, Boston. The trees on the hospital lawn are lush and thriving. They too are getting the best of care, like you and the anonymous many, in the clean rooms high above the city, where day and night the doctors keep arriving, where intricate machines chart with cool devotion the murmur of the blood, the slow patching up of bones, the despair of the mind. When I come to visit and we walk out into the light of a summer day, we sit under the trees, buckeyes, a sycamore, and one black walnut brooding high over a hedge of lilacs, as old as the red brick building behind them, the original hospital built before the Civil War. We sit on the lawn together, holding hands while you tell me you are better. How many young men, I wonder, came here, wheeled on cots off the slow trains from the red and hideous battlefields, to lie all summer in the small and stuffy chambers while doctors did what they could, longing for tools still unimagined, medicines still unfound, wisdoms still unguessed at. And how many died staring at the leaves of the trees, blind to the terrible effort around them to keep them alive. I look into your eyes, which are sometimes green and sometimes gray, and sometimes full of humor, but often not, and tell myself, you're better, because my life without you would be a place of parched and broken trees. Later, walking the corridors down to the street, I turn and step inside an empty room. Yesterday, someone was here with a gasping face. Now the bed is made all new. The machines have been rolled away. The silence continues, deep and neutral, as I stand there loving you. Moccasin flowers. This is from House of Light, Mary Oliver. Moccasin flowers. All my life so far, I have loved more than one thing, including the mossy hooves of dreams, including the spongy litter under tall trees. In spring, the moccasin flowers reach for the crackling lick of the sun and burn down. Sometimes in the shadows I see the hazy eyes, the lamb lips of oblivion, its deep drowse, and I can imagine a new nothing in the universe. The matted leaves splitting open, revealing the black planks of the stairs. But all my life, so far, I have loved best how the flowers rise and open, how the pink lungs of their bodies enter the fire of the world and stand there shining and willing. The one thing they can do before they shuffle forward into the floor of darkness, they become the trees. Singapore. In Singapore, in the airport, a darkness was ripped from my eyes. In the women's restroom, one compartment stood open. A woman knelt there, washing something in the white bowl. Disgust argued in my stomach, and I felt in my pocket for my ticket. A poem should always have birds in it. Kingfishers say, with their bold eyes and gaudy wings. Rivers are pleasant, and of course, trees. A waterfall, or if that's not possible, a fountain rising and falling. A person wants to stand in a happy place in a poem. When the woman turned, I could not answer her face. Her beauty and her embarrassment struggled together, and neither could win. She smiled, and I smiled. What kind of nonsense is this? Everybody needs a job. Yes, a person wants to stand in a happy place in a poem. But first we must watch her as she stares down at her labor, which is dull enough. She is washing the tops of the airport ashtrays, as big as hubcaps, with a blue rag. Her small hands turn the metal, scrubbing and rinsing. She does not work slowly nor quickly, but like a river. Her dark hair is like the wing of a bird. I don't doubt for a moment that she loves her life. And I want her to rise up from the crust and the slop and fly down to the river. This probably won't happen, but maybe it will. If the world were only pain and logic, who would want it? Of course it isn't. Neither do I mean anything miraculous, but only the light that can shine out of a life. I mean the way she unfolded and refolded the blue cloth, the way her smile was only for my sake. I mean the way this poem is filled with trees and birds. the kingfisher. The kingfisher rises out of the black wave like a blue flower. In his beak he carries a silver leaf. I think this is the prettiest world, so long as you don't mind a little dying. How could there be a day in your whole life that doesn't have its splash of happiness? There are more fish than there are leaves on 1,000 trees. And anyway, the kingfisher wasn't born to think about it or anything else. When the wave snaps shut over his blue head, the water remains water. Hunger is the only story he has ever heard in his life that he could believe. I don't say he's right, neither do I say he is wrong. Religiously he swallows the silver leaf with its broken red river, and with a rough and easy cry I couldn't rouse out of my thoughtful body if my life depended on it, he swings back over the bright sea to do the same thing, to do it as I long to do something, anything, perfectly. Turtle. Now I see it. It nudges with its bulldog head the slippery stems of the lilies, making them tremble. And now it noses along in the wake of the little brown teal, who is leading her soft children from one side of the pond to the other. She keeps close to the edge, and they follow closely the good children, the tender children, the sweet children, dangling their pretty feet into the darkness. And now will come, I can count on it, the murky splash, the certain victory of that pink and gassy mouth, and the frantic circling of the hen, while the rest of the chicks flare away over the water into the reeds, and my heart will be most mournful on their account. But listen, what's important? Nothing is important, except that the great and cruel mystery of the world, of which this is a part, not be denied. Once I happened to see on a city street in summer a dusty, fouled turtle plodding along, a snapper, broken out, I suppose, from some backyard cage. And I knew what I had to do. I looked it right in the eyes and I caught it. I put it like a small mountain range into a knapsack. And I took it out of the city and I let it down into the dark pond, into the cool water and the light of the lilies to live. The notebook. 6 a.m. The small pond turtle lifts its head into the air like a green toe. It looks around. What it sees is the whole world swirling back from darkness. A red sun rising over the water, over the pines, and the wind lifting, and the water striders heading out, and the white lilies opening their happy bodies. The turtle doesn't have a word for any of it. the silky water, or the enormous blue morning, or the curious affair of its own body. On the shore, I'm so busy scribbling and crossing out, I almost miss seeing him paddle away through the wet, black forest. More and more the moments come to me. How much can the right word do? Now a few of the lilies are faint flamingo inside their white hearts, and there is still time to let the last roses of the sunrise float down into my uplifted eyes. White owl flies into and out of the field. Coming down out of the freezing sky with its depth of light, like an angel or a Buddha with wings, it was beautiful and accurate, striking the snow and whatever was there with a force that left the imprint of the tips of its wings, 5 feet apart, and the grabbing thrust of its feet, and the indentation of what had been running through the white valleys of the snow. And then it rose gracefully and flew back to the frozen marshes to lurk there, like a little lighthouse in the blue shadows. So I thought, maybe death isn't darkness after all, but so much light wrapping itself around us, as soft as feathers, that we're instantly weary of looking and shut our eyes, not without amazement, and let ourselves be carried as through the translucence of mica to the river that is without the least dapple or shadow, that is nothing but light, scalding aortal light, in which we are washed and washed out of our bones. The summer day. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who's moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who's gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? we will end here for today.